Okay, continuing about intelligence. This video is a continuation of the video corporate greed scale, right? Corporate coward scale versus the pure moral based martial arts scale. The martial artist doesn't need to be the most powerful man alive to put the greater good of humanity over himself and his family. The pure moral based martial artist. Okay, so we go into the idea of Ivy League cultural investment. What does it mean to go to an Ivy League school in the first place? Well, you're going to have an astronomical student loan, debt figure, right? And not all these guys are rich. And even if they were, they're investing a lot of money into the idea that they are qualified to be experts in various fields and to be heavily qualified in the least in certain jobs and so on. That's the idea that they're going for. And the bare minimum they get when they get that diploma, when they get that degree, is that they are considered, qualified in a respectable manner. They have invested in the culture, okay, in mainstream culture. It is not some conspiracy theorists say, I think the Stanford guys are qualified to be hired to be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist given recommendations through think tanks and otherwise, okay? It is mainstream culture, which connects to mainstream media, which we can all agree is bullshit. The media is bullshit, therefore the culture is bullshit, therefore they have invested in the bullshit view of idiots who are willing to roll with the bullshit. Okay? That is what it means to go to an Ivy League school and to have graduated. All 4 years, or however long it takes, they go into graduate school and so on, right? They have said to themselves that that is the direction for their life. Therefore, you cannot possibly be somebody who has graduated from an Ivy League school that doesn't say that and be wise. You have to then look back and say, I have made a mistake. Okay? This is bullshit. The culture is bullshit. The only reason you believe me is because you buy the bullshit. If that isn't part of your argument, even if you went in there because that's a requirement to be heard in the first place, why aren't you at some point saying, this is bullshit, and that's why I'm able to say that to you? You're allowing for the masses of cowards to overrule and be more effective and supersede what you're trying to do. In other words, just because you used your degree to do the right thing and went through that bullshit process doesn't mean that the masses of graduates from Ivy League schools do the same. They don't. So why wouldn't you at least, the bare minimum, at some point say Ivy League schools are bullshit? Because you ultimately are investing in the culture of bullshit. Period. And that is unwise. So when we look at women, right? And there are the mainstream attacks on conspiracy theorists. This includes the left. Absolutely, the left is considered the more sophisticated party who have a superior argument, certainly by the media, which affects and infects the culture. Okay. The rape victims. We have cases of rape victims where their own friends testify that they're lying about fraternities raping them. So part of the culture. Part of the argument that feminists are making, part of what they're communicating, is that there is no conspiracy when it comes to rape, but rather it is people's attitudes. Even though in her article, right, which not everyone reads this article, mind you, okay, she says that there are enablers, okay? So unwittingly, in the least, they're part of a conspiracy is one way to put it. It's almost like semantics. Right? They're enablers, they're conspirators, they're co-conspirators, they're accomplices. They're all pretty much the same thing. Has to do with levels of awareness and being a witting accomplice versus being an unwitting one. Okay. So we talk about the trickle-down economics, right? It's actually trickle up. Because if you don't feed into the bullshit culture and buy the expensive car from a European company, buy the house from a European kind of real estate organization, and from rich white people, they own, every $5 a black family has on average, $100 for a white family, so you're mostly buying it from white people, okay? If you're a successful black person, you're spending a lot of money with white people. Okay? It's a trick all. Trick L. Trick all. Down culture. Tricks. Women as tricks. Tricking someone. Trickle down culture. Incidentally, martial arts tricking is a form of demonstration, presentation, right? Not a valid combat application, mind you. And the rear naked chokehold, right, has implications on rape. Naked statues, Greco-Roman cultures with rapist deities like Mars, Neptune, and Jupiter, Zeus, and so on. Anyway, so going back to the officers again, tricking, right? Michael Aquino, psychological operation. Why is he a colonel? Why was he a colonel in the Army Presidio base in San Francisco, 45 an hour away from where I live? Okay. Satanists as a psychological operations officer in charge of the unit. And then you have martial artists, okay? It deals with illusion, right? Why is he qualified to do the psychological operation? Because his version of martial arts deals in illusion. It also teaches people discipline, and it teaches them some respectable things. But ultimately, how they ultimately make their point is by contributing in illusion, which is part of the yin-yang philosophy, and certainly his martial art is an Eastern art. Okay. Going back to page 63. I'm going to read it again in case you didn't see the other video. About the author, a former psychological operations sergeant with the U.S. Army, Hakeem Eisler is the designer of several wilderness survival products and the owner of Elevo Dynamics, the first Dojim, a 24-hour gym and martial arts facility in the United States. He's also the founder of the Soil Foundation, a nonprofit that offers off-grid training and excursions to help veterans, law enforcement, and civilians recover from anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Eisler is a fourth-degree black belt in Toshindo. When you really look at it, right, he's talking about helping people recover from mental illness. So this culture basically admits to some degree that people are sick. They just don't define it accurately. They don't highlight the underlying cause, the root cause of this sickness, which is the nurture from the environment, the sicko-designed psychological construct, which was designed with a corporate scale of greed and cowardice. Okay? But they agree that people are sick and they need help, and they even go as far as to train people in martial arts to help them deal with that. So think about this nonsensical argument we're getting. No one can beat this guy at martial arts because of the focus, the discipline, and the perception. He's astute, he's keen, he's aware, he's perceptive. He gets it, he lives in reality. That to the point, you know, and then they turn around, okay, and say he's mentally ill, and they train people with martial arts to help them deal with mental illness. Think about how nonsensical, how pathetic, how pitiful their argument is. That is tantamount to saying when you see a bird flying in front of you, that bird isn't flying. And everyone's agreeing with it and drugging people who don't and pushing people around. I mean, this guy lives in reality more than everyone else, to the point we train people in martial arts who focus less effectively than he does, mind you. Who come up with an inferior strategy for combat, mind you. And we're saying that he's mentally ill, even though he focuses in a superior manner. Even though he has videos of his mom coughing, we're going to pretend that he's not being filmed. His voice has changed, a raspy voice. His mom's coughing in the background and through the door in the other room so loudly that it travels across the hallway through the fucking door. There's the frequency of coughing considered. She's not coughing all the time, but whenever he's being filmed and she's upstairs, she's coughing. Think about how stupid you would have to be not to concede my point. Think about how out of touch you would have to be, or how much of a coward, right? Your scale is the corporate greed scale. What is the American dream? To be a greedy corporate scoundrel who makes more money than a celebrity. It's a capitalist culture, not a celebrity culture alone. The celebrity gets told what to do by the rich guy. What, you didn't figure that out? All right. So this guy in this same culture can't get a date. It goes back to media influencing the culture through social media, right? It's a bunch of people from various ethnic groups and philosophies that own the media, that also, and their friends own the social media sites. What, you didn't put that together? You don't think social media posts articles of media articles on social media? People don't do that to prove their point? You know, the two aren't intertwined. They're not connected at the fucking hips. They're not part of the same greater culture. What, are you an idiot? So if the media is bullshit, then modern Western culture is bullshit. What, you didn't put that together? You don't realize your life is bullshit? It's void of love and honor and reality? You didn't realize you're living a lie? And it's cowardly to pretend that you're not? You know? So it is a criminal opportunist culture. Before people are racist, they are opportunists. Period. Look at the prison gangs. Prison is a racially charged environment, but they are business first, race next. Business first, money, sex, okay? Image, reputation. Racism comes later. Anyway, moving on. So let's look at the key points. Okay, the key groups and the key points where they protest. Why isn't anyone helping me out? Let's look at this. When we talk about women in general, most of Americans are women. So if Western culture is bullshit and we're all equal, right? And the system is functional, then certainly the blame is on women. They're the majority of people. If this is majority rules and the majority of people are women, who's to blame? Mirror, mirror on the wall effect. She says, who is the fairest of them all, as she has tons of white makeup on, or she's white in the cartoon for whatever reason. What is being communicated subliminally under the threshold of consciousness, right? Subconscious mental processes, automatic behaviors, conscious levels of and receptivity to messages and communications, okay? How does this relate to the message being communicated and the form it's being communicated in? So we see the mirror, mirror on the wall effect. We see the rich white wife effect. Okay? Feminism. They object because it's a masculine martial arts structure. Women on record now actually have higher IQs than men. Incidentally, the Irish were considered inferior to other white people, and they invested on record in education, and now they've closed the gap. So obviously money and education determines IQ, not natural intelligence, but that hasn't stopped the right and other people, really the left, liberal, progressive eugenicists, from making the despicable argument that IQ has to do with natural intelligence, and we should screen out people who have lower IQs and come from demographics with lower IQs. We should measure the IQ test. And this was what was done by the eugenicists, Dr. Priddy, and so on, Priddy. In the case of even white women, right, the Supreme Court, American Eugenics, and the sterilization of Carol Gluck, based on her mental retardation, her being seen as an imbecile. One of these guys famously said 3 generations of imbeciles is enough. Moving on. So there's more women in higher education, and the trajectory of the culture is to elevate women based on this false scale. So feminists who are concerned, they're opportunists like everyone else, and the corporate funded, sponsored opportunists, a controlled opposition, they're concerned with how this plays out, right? Long-term agendas. Corporations have long-term agendas, right? They think of quarterly reports, annual reports, biannual reports, etc. So Republicans, they oppose Western values. I oppose Western values, and I challenge their conceptions of manhood. Christians, and these are just some very obvious reasons why you're being an idiot not to see why they don't back me up, and how petty they are, and how cowardly they are, and how immoral they are. Pretty much every group is cowardly, some of the main groups. Okay. Key groups and key places where they protest. Christians, I have a different and more intensely masculine view, and I'm anti-psychology. They use psychology to enforce their point of view. If you don't see it that way, you're out of touch with reality. Of course, there's propaganda in the news. There's Christian channels on TV. You're a dumbass if you don't get that. Some psychologists started their own movements, their own sects of Christianity. All right, LGBT movement. Straight orientation as sacred and key to connecting to the cultivating the spirit. Atheists, so that's why they don't accept my view. Atheists. I put an emphasis on God and masculinity, and an insistence on the logical assumption they deny, right? Atheists are sissies who even deny that the logical assumption is that there's a God. Why would you live your life in a way that doesn't reflect the logical assumption? Because you're a corporate-sponsored sissy, refuses to man up. A lot of them are basically gay and weirdos, and but the Bible is against homosexuality. Religions, the major religions are, and there's no way around that, and that's part of why they're endorse atheism. Jews, they have a different idea. I have a different idea of who are the chosen people. A martial arts perspective, they have kind of the Jews are the chosen people. Democrats, I'm completely adverse to most of their views, except for their main views, except for immigration.